Good evening, everyone. We're happy to see so many people out this evening. And we're delighted on behalf of the Center for the Arts to be hosting Charley Freiberg. May I ask, how many people don't know Charley? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So, brief introduction. Charley, as you might have figured out, is a photographer. And he's been up here, what, 30 in New Hampshire? 33 years. Before that, probably wouldn't tell you this, but he was part of the renaissance of the arts in the Rockland, Maine area. He had a studio in Rockland when starving young artists could actually afford the studios there. It isn't possible now. He does a lot of commercial photography. He does photography for the New Hampshire League of Craftsmen. He's over there at the fair. He does quite a bit of preservation photography in northern New England. He's even done some work for the government, but that's top secret. We can't talk about that.
I'm serious.
It's so top secret that he's been to some of the places he's been in the North Woods. They've had him blindfolded and they went in. And the question, I think you can answer this one, Charley, without having problems with the official picture. Is it true that they actually blindfold you when you take the pictures as well?
It is actually very close to being true in many cases on the job I'm on now, which I can't tell you about, but I will anyway. We've actually had to have people's fingers and pieces of paper all around the front of the lens to block buildings out, which you can see from the river by the shot on the film. That's another story.
So anyway, several years ago, he had a job of photographing the Northern Rail Trail, which runs currently from Boscawen, New Hampshire, up to West Lebanon. And he's going to tell us about some of the adventures, and you'll see some pictures from it as well. How many of you actually have ridden on the Northern Rail Trail? Very good. So see if you recognize the places. With that, I'll turn it over to one more thing. I almost forgot. We do want to thank the New London Inn for providing us with the space to do this. The New London Inn has been a great support to the Center for the Arts, and we're so glad that you're all here supporting both the Center for the Arts and the New London Inn. Thank you very much, and I'll turn it over to Charles.
Go there.
If I don't use the mic, can you hear me?
Sure.
Okay. Good. You're not like me after having played rock and roll loud for 50 years, and my wife says I can't hear anything.
What?
Yeah.
Most husbands can't.
No, most, of course, we choose not to, yeah. I've put some prints around, and I'm more than happy to pass these around. Go ahead and handle them. If you spill something on them, don't go, oh my God, it's okay. But these are shots of the rail trail that I took on this job. And most of them are what we call working prints, so I really don't care. But there are a couple of really nice ones, I still don't care. But anyway, if you'd like me to, I'll just pass them around. You can listen to me pass them, do whatever you like. So again, I'm a commercial photographer. I don't do weddings unless it's a friend. I don't do portraits unless it's what's called environmental portraiture, which is usually a CEO of a company, or it's a friend. My work is strictly advertising work, and nowadays I'm mostly doing stuff for artists, craftspeople, and my big thing is for historic documentation, preservation, and consultation. I take pictures of old places. And if you look back there, you can see bridges, things like that. So the whole thing that leads to this is 10 years ago, I got a call from one of the 3 L's. There's Liz, Lynn, and Lisa. And these are the 3 big preservation consultants in New England. And Lisa Malzoff called me from Reading and said, you ride a bike, don't you? And I went, oh yeah. Do you ride the rail trail? And I go, yeah. How would you like to be paid $100 an hour to ride the rail trail? And it was a fun job. It was stupidly I said yes because it wasn't like riding the rail trail. Shall we start?
Sure.
Okay, so we had 2 basically mountain bikes with big baskets on them. I had 3 cameras in mine. She had rolls of charts in hers. I had a tripod strapped in there, extra clothing, which turns out on one of the stories to have saved us. Notebooks, because the documentation on the trail, by the time Lisa got done, stretched from about here, well, it's as wide as that. And we spent 4 months in this job. And this is the, oh, that's not the rail. Yes, it is the rail trail. That's Lebanon. That has been redone. Go ahead and go right through them. Okay, this is not the rail trail. Yes, it is the rail trail. Again, it's from one of the bridges looking over going up 89. And you guys don't know it yet, but you're gonna be able to ride across those bridges. When we did this, I was carrying a tripod, not with any camera, but with a 35 millimeter. And Lisa looked at the bridge and said, there's no way in hell I'm going to cross that bridge. And she said, you're not allowed. And I just walked across it. But what you had to do is jump in Lebanon, about every 3 feet from one railroad track to another. And it took her 2 hours to walk down and get around the other side. But I'm now 10 years older. I would never do that again. Keep going. Let's go through. Thank you. Okay, the thing is, I have literally thousands of shots. I can't remember what all these are, but just going through, Tom, it's just, there's so many pretty shots around it. And here was the problem. I got hired to ride my bicycle, and I was so excited. And Lisa and I met up, and we actually started in Potter Place. And I'm thinking, oh, this is cool. We're gonna ride it. We would ride from about here to here. Then we'd stop. And she would get her chart out and she would say, there should be a culvert here. Something like that. By the way, that is called a stone box culvert. And it's kind of important to know that because that's one of the originals. I don't know if you guys know that. Most of you do know that the railroad was started in 1847. It ran for well over 100 years. So it really, it's quite something. That's one of the original culverts that has not been touched. Most culverts now are concrete and they're ugly and they're just, there's nothing cool about it. But that's gorgeous because that's the original lintel across the top and they're spectacular. So when people ride the trail or any trail, if you see a glint of stone, stop and look at it. Keep going, Tom. You guys know where that is, right? Up in Lebanon. That was pretty much the end of our.
No, it's West Web.
Yeah.
If you go to.
That was the end of our
LB.
trail because legally I wasn't allowed to set foot on the railroad tracks from there on because they were still in use. And boy, I've photographed a lot of railroad tracks and railroad bridges around all of New England. They are so strict at that. They don't even want you walking, even with their people, along the sides of the railroad.
Yeah.
Because things go wrong all the time. Go ahead, Tom. Okay, you guys see up there the little scraggly things hanging down? Can you see that? They're telltales. Now those have been kind of worn down quite a bit, but obviously a lot of you know what a telltale is. In the old days on railroad, I didn't know this, but on the trains that are going by, there's generally somebody up on the top doing maintenance as they go along. They're busy with their maintenance. They're not thinking about what's coming up. And what may be coming up is a tunnel or something like that. So the phrase was dead men tell no tales. And basically they started putting these things up with these long prongy things that hung down and would scrape along the top of the railroad cars. So if somebody was working on the top of the railroad car, they would hear this going, I've got about 2 seconds to lie down flat on this before I get crushed against a tunnel. And it's true, and that's what they're for, and they're still there. So those are called telltales. Go ahead, Tom. Just another nice old arch bridge. It's not entirely, it's kind of a mix of new and old. So that was probably done in the mid-40s, 1940s. Okay? Tom? Yep. Next time you go, just look underneath and see how these things are constructed. There are all different kinds of constructions on the bridges. I'm not going to go through that, but they're pretty cool. Okay, this is up on Route 4, and it's in Wilmot, near where I live. And as far as I can tell, it's what's called a catchment, and it's right on the other side of the pond there, Eagle Pond, yeah. And that goes underneath the rail trail to the water, and I think it's literally just for overflow to fill up. But we've never seen it happen, so we're assuming it's clogged up, which makes you wonder, where's that water going? Whose basement is it going in? And actually, I do know whose basement goes. Next. Again, some more culverts, but you can see they still have the original stone, but then they put some concrete pipe in there. Okay, it's all right. Next. Okay, now this is the cool one. Out of all the places, if you guys have not seen this, this is so cool. So you're riding out of Andover, you're heading up to Danbury. You're 1.25 miles from Danbury. I can't remember the name of that road. It's off Route 4, you can't see it. There's a little clearing there with a few little houses and a kind of a green sward of grass. You can't see this because you're on top of it, but this is one of the most beautiful cathedrals I've ever seen. It's a stone arch bridge, and you can see it's keystone, and there's some prints of it here. Yeah, that's the one. It's massive, and you will never know it unless you get off the trail and go down. I left a rope. I put a rope up there tied to a tree. It's a little bit steep, but after I had done this job and I had talked to a bunch of folks about it, I led a one-day ride and walk up there, and we rode and walked. We got to the spot where the rope was, and a 98-year-old guy said, "Oh yeah, I'll go down there." So we all went down and tromped through the. Go ahead, Tom. Oh.
Someone on the Zoom says Walker Brook Road.
No, it isn't Walker Brook. It's farther up than that.
Okay,
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
they'll type again. We'll
Yeah,
see.
yeah. Okay, that's another telltale. But going back to that story, anyway, it's still there. If you don't know exactly where it is and you want to go for a ride, you can call Tom, you can call me, and we'll go for a ride, and I'll take you there, because when you see it, it is astonishing. It is huge. And the reason it is because even though it looks murky and mucky, in springtime, the waterway that comes down alongside of the railroad tracks is full of trees, branches, and limbs. It's so tall, all that garbage has got to get through there and wash out. But it's as you know, it is absolutely wonderful. So there are some better telltales, and those I believe are near Potter Place. Okay. Okay, that's Walker Brook Road. And if you've gone over that one, get off the road, walk down, and just take a look at it, because it's got one of the two most beautiful, cool-looking wooden piers, and these things on the end where bridges meet the sides of roads are called abutments. And historically, they're very, very important. I've spent a lot of time dealing with the 3Ls, and they're going, "No, Charlie, you need a shot of this." Because it's a worn, and and I'm going, it's just a stupid piece of steel stuck in the fine. But it is really lovely, because those are both stone arched abutments, and they're just pretty. Go ahead.
That's a wood trestle.
It is a wood trestle. Yeah. Yep. Go ahead. That's the same place. All right. So here's your nomenclature.
We don't know.
Yeah, it's a whistle stop, and a whistle stop just when the trains would come up, they're coming to some place where there's either a junction or something important is going on. They want to let people know that they're coming, because as people, we're fairly stupid, and unless you tell us, we're not going to get out of the way. Literally, we will stand in the tracks That train's coming real close, isn't it? Until the guy, I guess we should get out of, get out of the way. Go ahead. Yeah, just, they're pretty shots, yeah. But you gotta understand, when I take pictures like this, historic stuff, I'm not taking pretty shots. I'm lucky when I get one. And go ahead. Okay, these are important. These are called section markers. They're also called mile markers because they do mark miles. But here's the cool thing about it. This is a fairly new one. That was probably done again in the 30s or 40s. The original ones are done in stone and all kinds of ways. That mark, these guys worked with old tools, transits, things like that. When they came along with GPS to check how far, that's mile 112.40.
Oh my God.
They were never off more than 3 meters. Or not 3 meters, 3 feet, 1 meter. And that's how good, these guys are good. So those are set up for 2 things, just to give the trains and everybody else a really exact knowledge of where they are, but they also mark things like where a culvert might be that they have to check on later on, or as time went on, they got that electricity where them cables went through, stuff like that. But when you can find section markers, if you go along the trail and you get off the trail, this is what happened. Oh, this trip was great, but it was a pain because, as I said, we'd go 30, maybe 20, 30 feet, get off. She said, Charlie, according to the plat, there is a culvert here. And we would look along, well, these things are over 100 years old. And the rate of growth of dirt I found from one of my top secret jobs that I did that I can't tell you about. It was at a military base that I'm not allowed to tell you about outside of Manchester for World War II that you can't go to anyway, so I can tell you about it. There's still that area. I don't have any photographs here, but if you ever want to see them, let me know. Acres and acres of these flags stuck in the ground, red flags. And it meant this is where they trained bomber pilots and fighter pilots during World War II on the East Coast, how to do their job and then ship them across during the war. They practiced in this area in Manchester, right outside of the airport. The red flags tell you where there's unexploded ordnance underneath. And there are times when, if you look at this table with these glasses here, like all the glasses, there are red flags like that piled on top of each other. And it's like, oh, and they said, you don't want to go there. I'm going, I don't want to go there. And they did actually blow some up while I was there so I could see it. So there's things like that that you need to know exactly where you are at any time. Go ahead. Just a joint and pretty stuff. That's actually it's coming out of Powder Place. But anyway, I was saying that most of my shots are not pretty shots. They are architectural shots that show some aspect. Like if I were to, I have photographed in here commercially for their brochures in years past. But if I had to come back to photograph this for historic documentation, I should explain that, shouldn't I? You guys know what the registry is? There's a registry of historical places in the Library of Congress. I get hired to photograph those, and I do them on this camera or an even bigger camera. This is a 4x5. Are you guys familiar with old-fashioned? Most of you, yeah, should be. We are all of the same age here. Yeah, so you look through the back, and everything, when you look through the back of one of these cameras, I'll pass this around. First of all, it's heavy. You can't handhold it. It's got to go on a tripod. It's upside down and backwards inside here because that's how your eyes see things. And then your brain turns it around so you can see it the way we are supposed to see it. So you get used to very quickly looking here and knowing that everything is upside down and backwards. But this is the tool that I use, and it's got some little controls on it so I can control which way the lens is going up and down, slightly this way, slightly that way, to correct for perspective problems and focus. And the nice thing about images film that's this big and lenses that are that size, they're sharp and there's a lot of detail in there. And just my 8x10 camera, which is that big, the lenses are monstrous. And the one lens I have is it's about 140 years old. So it works just fine. So if you guys want to see this too, I'm gonna put this, well, I'll leave it here, but if you want to play with it, you're more welcome to play with it. Go ahead. Okay, so that's an abutment, a nice stone abutment. You just don't see that many. You're gonna see mostly concrete. Go ahead. Okay.
Class, what's that called? No, all right, no, it's a section marker.
Yeah, you can call it a mile marker. Whistle stop, which means that somewhere around there's going to be a crossroads where the cattle would go by, or a road would be crossing. There's got to be something nearby. Go ahead. Some more. Okay. Look at the lentils. The lentils are the stone pieces that go across. I had to shoot a job, and it was 20 below zero, and they just had a flood. It was in Alton, and they pulled off all this dirt. There was about 6 feet of dirt piled up on these, over the tops of the lentils, over the tops of the stone. The lentils were 13 feet long, 3 feet wide, and a foot thick, and only one of them had broken. And it didn't make any difference because they were so big and so tight that even though it broke, the pressure held it together all these years. And it was just beautiful. It was like, that is so cool. It took teams and teams of horses to pull them, then go to the other side, get change on it, and pull it across to span the distance. Go ahead. Another nice thing, but it's fairly, okay, that one, it's got like metal, you know, we don't, those of us who are like in the know, we don't care about that. But at least I could get to it. Go ahead. Okay. Who knows where that is?
Canaan.
Thank you. Who knows what it is? Okay. The best we can figure it out, and I am 99.9% sure that there are 3 of these, actually there are 4 of these blocks around. There used to be a huge ball bearing.
Turntable.
It's a turntable. This is where the engines would come, uncouple, and then turn around, pick up another set of trains, of cabs, and then go in another direction. It's pretty cool. There's a really nice one down in Franklin, if you've seen that one. Yeah. Okay. That's Canaan. That's what's left of. We're not sure if that was the original depot or not, but there's a bunch of cool buildings up in Canaan. And if you get off there and just look around, you'll kind of start recognizing something. All right. Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Oh, wait, sorry. Here you go.
This next one, this was done, I think the day before. We had to finish writing up. It was on my birthday. It was late October. And we're riding up there, and I'm stupid, you know, so I ride in shorts and a jacket and stuff. It's October 28th. Let me say it again. I'm riding in shorts and a jacket. It's October 28th, and it's New Hampshire. Shorts, jacket. It started to snow, and then it started to sleet. And Lisa, who's from Massachusetts, that doesn't know these things, said, well, it's a little cold. And I'm getting scared because if you've ridden up there through Canaan, you know, that whole area, there's nothing there. And it's not a good track. And we just had, like, you know, cut off gloves on. And I was starting to get worried we were going to make it out of this alive. But thankfully, we both had extra clothes, put them on, and were able to get to the car, snot dripping. And we actually got so cold we stopped shooting. We said, this is stupid. And so I said, we're going to have to ride hard to get through this. Tom and I had an experience running from rain all the way back from the Danbury Country Store. You know that place? We usually ride at a very gentlemanly pace. 10 miles an hour.
We're
11
built for
miles.
comfort, not speed.
Yes. We rode all the way back because we could see that what was coming was not going to be pleasant. We rode back at 25 miles an hour on the trail on big old fat tires. That was desperation. And our conversation was pretty stupid. Are you doing, Tom? Fine.
No rest, no breath.
That's up in Canaan too. That used to be one of the, it was a company building for the workers who were there. And then later on it became kind of a hotel. And now it's become apartments. Okay. And I'm pretty sure that's up in Franklin. Yes, it is. That's up in Franklin. And Lisa and I walked through there and saw a house, waved at the guy in the house, carrying our equipment. We were going to go up and talk to him because part of this job is getting the history of these places. And as we got closer, he pulled a gun out and set his dogs on us. I don't know, but it's just pretty. I think it's going the way to Danbury. Okay. Bridges. Yeah? More bridge? Oh, look, it's a bridge. Go ahead. Oh, it's a bridge. Go ahead. There we go. Enfield. I was able to actually get some pretty shots of a lot of the buildings along here. Enfield is pretty. Yep, keep going. I put a lot in here. I don't really need these, but that is coming. That's you're coming out of Enfield on your way to Lebanon. Oh, and these are really cool. Yeah, those are the berms that hold the hills back, and they're just pretty. I mean, you think about how these people did this. You got how many of you ridden down to Franklin? Okay, you know the story of how they put that railway along there. They hired a local guy who subcontracted that work. This is in the mid-1800s. No cars. They just got the guy's got some horses and a cart. As you ride down to Franklin, you're riding on a man-made mountain all the way down there. This guy they would dig the dirt, put in the cart, come to the edge, and it was a 96-foot drop off. Dump the load of dirt. And as all guys do, you just look at it for a while and go, yeah. Get back in, get the cart turned around, go get another load. And they did this for years. And the guy was smart enough to subcontract out because they had to do it in a hurry. So they had cart after cart dumping dirt and rocks down, letting it spread, have people down there below, smoothing it out, 96 feet. And it went, that section is probably, it's gonna be close to a mile long. Cart after cart. Now we would be, how long do you wait for something on Google now? Quarter of a second, you're done. Yeah, another bridge, boy, oh boy. Okay, geological survey mark. I don't remember where it is. I think it's in Enfield. Enfield or Lebanon. It marks an exact spot on the earth. And I don't know what it is, but it's an elevation and marking of, so they know exactly where something is. And they put them in.
Oh, I was just gonna ask if you can see it from the trail or if you only.
No, it's on the trail. It's right on the trail. Yeah, it's right there. There are these hidden around places around the earth. Like you might be, I don't know, I think in Nepal or someplace in your middle. And there's one of them. So they're for very specific reasons, which I don't know because it has to do with mapping of the planet. Okay. All right, there we go. There's another one. Section marker. Yep. Yeah, that's just pretty. I just like things like that. I think of these people putting these in there and laying them in, knowing how much backfill to put in, how to tamp it down, then putting the next row in because each one has to go back a certain amount. I'm impressed. You ought to see my stone wall. No, they're just stones thrown there. Yep. I think it is Maple Street. Okay, that is a mile marker. And I don't remember the wonderful man who's in Andover.
Ed Miller.
Ed, yeah. He's been redoing these. Some of them are the original actual pieces of stone. Some are new, but he redoes them, paints them, and they're gorgeous. Okay?
So is that B for Boston?
Yes. And on the other side, it says WR.
Oh, White River.
White River Junction. Yep. That's I know in that's in Wilmot on you can see it off of Route 4. And just to give you an idea, a lot of times Lisa and I did this for 4 months. I'd say more than half of the ones that we went to look for, we could not find, and we're smart enough, thankfully. You're looking like, especially in the Franklin one, where you're looking down this long hillside. I look at her and she look at me and say, we're not going down there, it's dangerous. It's too steep. No. So we just put NA, not available on it. And also because the dirt is just covered mostly up. If you guys just go on the street in Andover, look at the little ones that are right there. If you took a shovel out and cleaned out, you'd realize they're 3 feet down there, but the dirt is just filled up. And that was actually one of the things I was going to say about the bombs that I had to deal with on that one job. They weren't worried about it. The bombs are in there, but they were 5 to 8 feet deep. And this is from 1940, at the latest 44, of dirt that had just built up from leaves, and wind, and stuff like that. So it builds up quickly, and a lot. Okay. Oh, that's Franklin. Yep. And that's pretty. That's an example, another example of a stone arch with a keyway in it. That centerpiece. Okay. Yep. There you go. There's your White River Junction, Boston on the other side. Oh, have you seen? Yeah, we've done it. That's the one in Garrish. Thank you. Yeah. And jump right in there because you know my brain is much there. So
We're here for you.
okay. Keep going. Okay, so now that's a new section marker, but it's not as useful because it doesn't have an exact mileage. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, keep going. That's the one across from Webster Lake. That's a beautiful culvert. That is really nice. Okay. And that's the keystone right there in the middle. And it's just really cool how they put that stuff together. That's that one's been redone in the last probably 30 years.
Is that Route 4 up?
That's that is up near where the crossover is.
The dam south of Denver?
South of Danbury. Yep.
Oh, all right, okay.
Okay, so I just got a little fun here. This is a Route 4 by Eagle Pond. And what I did was what everybody does with their cameras, you set it up and you do a panorama, and then you put it in Photoshop, and you come out with this goofy look. That you see over in the left-hand side, you can see the road there. That actually belongs over here.
So you're seeing a half round there.
Yeah, you're seeing a half round.
Down.
But I've always loved that house because it looks like something, you're riding along, it looks like the real world. And also we get to that house and it looks like mid-1800s. It's just got a great feel to it. Okay, there you go. That's it, that's the place. And you can see through there, there's a grassy sward and then a few little houses. And right now you can see it. If you go up to the Danbury Country Store, and I get money every time I say that. On Route 4, if you glance at the right moment, you'll see it, but it really is a glance. And as soon as the leaves come up, it's gone. And as I said, you don't know you're on that until you don't know. So you just kind of look for that. And as I said, it's about 1.25 miles from the store itself. And look for a yellow rope. It's tied on tree right about here. And it's kind of steep. I mean, you're not going to hurt yourself. You could slither down on your butt. But it's nicer to have the rope in case you want to pull back up.
The trail is up there where the 5.
Yes, that is the trail right over the top. Yep.
That's it.
Cool. Okay, I got that done. All right. Have you guys had a chance to look at some of the pictures and things like that? Does anybody want to look at the camera and see what I have to deal with all the time? You pass it around. So you look to the back. You focus with this knob right here.
Charlie, when was that made?
This is probably made in the 30s. It's a press camera. You guys know what press cameras are, right? You've seen those shots. But what I've done is I stripped everything off of here that I don't need. Because if you look very carefully, there's dirt and grime. This thing has fallen. I have to go back up here, otherwise I don't know what to do. That thing has fallen and been swept down a couple of rivers. It's fallen in the mud. But cameras like that are so simple, there's nothing in it. It's just a box. It's not like our new cameras. So it would fall off and get literally filled with mud, and we would spend a few minutes, clean it out. You can take it all apart in a couple of minutes, wipe it out, dry it off, and go back to work. But they are gorgeous and simple buggers. It is heavy, isn't it? Yeah.
Charlie, when did you do this project?
I did the rail trail 10 years ago this year.
You guys-
And it took me 4 months, and Lisa had to start in Concord. And she's the only one who's done this. She actually is the only one who knows. She has gone through the entire, every 10th of a mile from where Satterley Lumber used to be, where Delta Dental is in Concord, if you know where that is, off the highway, that complex. That's where it started, all the way up to Boston. And then I picked it up from Boston on. Yes.
What was the purpose of this project?
The purpose of the project, this was not what's called a HABS error, which is part of the Library of Congress's registry. They just needed this done for the state, federal government, and then every single town it goes through to have a record of this. Because I guess there's still, I may be wrong, there's still some twitchy issues in some of the towns about rights, lawsuits, and things like that, or has that all been settled?
What do you explain?
I don't know how much you want to know about this.
We don't want to know a lot.
The answer is no.
Okay, we're done. That's it.
Thank you.
Okay, cool. Okay, so I'm glad to hear that, because the last time we talked, there was still some, you said, well, we can't quite, all right, fine. Let's see, what else can I tell you? Okay, so this job I'm on that has nothing to do with this, the one I can't tell you about, it's the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard. And I almost brought the bag. I almost brought the bag with my top secret badge on it, but I was smart enough not to, because these people are serious. They're redoing the submarine docks there, and everything is top secret. As I said, but the point is, it's so stupid, because if you have a boat on the river or you're standing in Portsmouth, you can see all the buildings. And at the end of this job, which I've got for 7 years to go photograph this, even though I have to have top secret clearance, and there's one guy, I made a mistake when I was shooting there in February, and I had all these clothes on, and I was tired, and it was it's really a really awful place to work in. One of my badges had slipped into my coat, and the next thing I know, he's got some kind of scary looking gun right at me, and he's angry, and I'm apologetic. I said, I'm sorry, what's that? Lock it. And we finally settled out. I said, you can't do that. And these guys are serious about this. So at the end of 7 years, all the stuff I'm doing that you can see from the river is going to be made public anyway. And I can't, the thing is, when I shoot, I'm using, with that camera, I've got big film holders that are that size. When we got finished shooting, I had to give them all my film holders with the film in it. And I had to give them the SD card out of my camera. I haven't seen the film or the shots yet. They've had them since actually January. And they say there's so much red tape, and they will let me know exactly which ones I'm allowed to process, and they will destroy the others. Okay. That's not my usual jobs are like. My usual jobs are old houses, bridges, You see back there, you can see some of the really beautiful bridges that I've had to shoot. And last summer I had to go shoot 7 bridges up in Laconia. And that's what that neat shot is. Right next to you, the woman is right there. Yeah, that is right there in downtown Laconia as you go over the main bridge there. And it's just a gorgeous spot. And it's one of those things that you don't think of until you have to be there and you see it. So I heartily recommend next time you're out looking at stuff, just think about how it might have been made and the people who have to do this stuff. Hi, Mom. Let's see what other places. Bridges, old houses. I've had to do a bunch of old captain's houses. I shot the original, the Portsmouth State House in Strawberry Bank. They took this apart. This is 31 years ago. They took it apart nail by nail, board by board, brick by brick, labeled everything, and stored it away in a trailer because they want to rebuild the whole thing. Unfortunately, I saw a report that said the trailer had started to leak about 15 years ago. And I just thought, oh, but I think they'll be able to clean it all up, put a new trailer, and hopefully, I mean, the bricks aren't going to be hurt, but the wood is apparently pretty damaged. Let's see, what else can I tell you? For 35 millimeter, I just have a Nikon, and I back everything up with the Nikon, and pretty much all that, you know, that this isn't what they're interested in. That's what they're interested in. The 4x5, that's what they're interested in. Oh, it's all black and white. And here's a little something that's interesting. How many of you in the Wilmot area know James Fogg? Anybody? He lives across the road from me. He's a very, I'll say, eccentric person. James is one of the country's few software troubleshooters who works with computer systems of no less than 6 million people. And he is the government's advisor on data storage. And so for years, we've been asking the government, look, these cameras now, this camera actually has better resolution than that camera. And we're going, couldn't we just switch to these guys? And James is one of the people who argued against it because the amount of money it would cost and the refrigeration and everything else to store digital stuff with these huge hard drives, and you have to have a redundancy of 3 backups, was more than just storing black and white film and black and white prints in an air-conditioned building. That's all you need. So he kind of put the kibosh on the whole thing. He's quite a character. You might meet him, spend some time with him. He knows more than anybody about storage. And yes, that's a very boring subject, but he knows his stuff. What other questions you guys might have? Yeah.
Is Graflex still producing cameras?
No, this company, Graflex, is no longer in business. This is a Crown graphic as opposed to the Speed graphics. But as I said, I've taken everything off of it. But you can buy these, which is really cool. You can buy one of these in decent shape for $100. You can buy a really good one for maybe $350. And the cost is actually in the lens. I mean, this lens is not that old. This lens is maybe 45 to 50 years old. And when I got this 40 some odd years ago, it cost me about $1,000.
Who still sells the film?
Oh, you can get film anywhere, but if you are interested, I get all of my film. Actually, nowadays you can get it from B&H Photo in New York, Adorama in New York, and Freestyle out in California. And here's one of the problems with the latest with the hostilities in Ukraine. All film has been made for years in about a dozen different factories. Actually, not a few years, forever. Ilford's film, Kodak's film, Agfa, all the really fine films you guys don't know about, the fine art films, are all made in Eastern Europe, and they always have been. And unfortunately, Ukraine is one of the places where they make the film. But because of the blockades and everything else that are going on, it is now a little bit tough to get the black and white film I need. Thankfully, I bought, because of this job for the Navy, I don't know when they're going to call me. And they said they're only going to call me probably once a year, but I have to be ready. And that's fine. So I bought about 600 sheets of film, and I've got it in paper I can still get, but it's getting tough too. Yeah, so they still make, you can buy any film you want. And as a matter of fact, this is an interesting thing. We all thought film was kind of dead. They're still improving it. It's actually gotten better. It's the same thing. I design and build tube amplifiers for guitars. And I don't know if you follow news, but that's been a big news. All the tubes come out of Russia, and they have for years. You can't get tubes. And I went down, I was looking at my stockpiles of tubes. I'm thinking right now, I could probably sell all of my tubes for double what I've got, wait till all this is over, and then get them again. So it's kind of interesting. But the film is still being worked on, made better and better and better. But the problem is, and not problem, the arrays inside, the little thing inside these cameras, it's this little rectangular, it's about 1/8 of an inch thick. And if you actually touch it, which you shouldn't do, it feels like human skin. They're getting better and better and better. And so now, if I could have come up with the money, I would get a 52 meg array camera, but it's $50,000 without the lens. Yeah, right. What other questions you might have? Yes.
Do you develop your own?
Yes, and I do. And if you ever shoot any black and white and you want to develop, just give me a call. Because at this point, I think I'm the only one around, and I have to develop it archivally, which means it has to last a bare minimum of 100 years. But the way it's done, it'll last 300 years. The same thing with my prints. But yeah, give me a holler, because I do that for anybody who needs it. And I'm also thinking of, I've got a Hasselblad. I don't know if you know what a Hasselblad is. It's a Swedish camera. They're gorgeous. It's a medium format camera. And I had, okay, I'm getting old. So I just like 2 months ago, and I'm going through my phone and doing the guy stuff on the phone, looking through there and looking at Google, something. And I seen all this stuff for medium format cameras. I'm going, wow, I should go get my Hasselblad. A Hasselblad, those are the cameras that used to go to the movie. They're very, very expensive, and they're beautifully manufactured. And I went up to the studio, and I could feel the blood drain, because I remembered as I got up there that I didn't know where the camera was because I had loaned it to somebody years before. And I walked back downstairs like an old guy, sat down, looked at my wife, and she just looked at me and said, what stupid? And I told her, and she just, at that point, I mean, we've been married for 917 years. She just looked at me. But the cool thing was, the next day, this guy calls. He says, "Hi, Charlie, this is Brian Sargent." Oh, my God. He said, "I don't know if you remember." And I said, "Of course I do." He said, "I've got your Hasselblad. I'm retiring. You want it back?" And then that's when I found out things are still in the film world. The film prices have gone up quite a bit. But they've improved the film, and they've made home processing of color film now for color negative film unbelievably inexpensive and easy. So I am going to start doing what's called C41 processing, color film processing. I'm not going to print out. I'm just going to take them, scan the negatives, and then do everything from the computer. So if you guys ever have any old color negative film you want done, it costs $20 to do 22 rolls of film. In the old days, it would cost me $9 just to have it processed. It's like, wow, this is cool. So what else? Give me something. You're done? Yeah.
About 3 or 4 pictures back, there was a very, very old rustic looking building. And
There.
That is really cool. Where is that?
Garage Depot, Box
It's in Bosquen, right on,
Is it on
yeah.
Is it Bosquen or Franklin?
It's in Bosquen, it's on,
Just past the gym.
yeah. You know where the split off, you know where the split off is? Okay, take the split off as if you're coming from Concord, go down, what, a mile or so?
Right before the nursery.
Right from the nursery, yeah.
The nursery, the nursing.
The black.
Nursing home, yeah, right from the nursing
Oh,
home.
you're saying nursing home.
Yeah.
That was it.
And the
there's-
state nursery.
The state
Okay.
nursery is past there.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
Thank you. That
and
is.
what I didn't show here, but because I had the permission to, I went in and shot it. And it's actually in pretty good shape. It
You went
smelled
inside
pretty
of it?
gamey, but a lot of critters have been in there.
Oh,
Yeah, a lot of critters have died in there. But yeah, that's the garage. Yeah, it's a neat spot, and there's some beautiful. That is a great. Tom and I did that ride.
A couple of years ago.
A couple years ago from Potter Place to Bosquen. And what astounded us mostly was the number of people on electric bikes with the big fat tires who really, how do I put this? They needed to lose weight. They shouldn't have been on those. They should have gotten rid of the motors and just ridden the damn bikes.
Yeah, they did sort of dwarf their tires.
They did. Yeah, but you should stop by there. Also, some of the other shots of some of those beautiful stone arch culverts are very near that. And if you just walk around there, it's really quite gorgeous. Any other places that you might be interested in? As I said, if you want to go and do the ride from Potter Place to Danbury, it's about 8 miles.
7 miles.
Yeah. And Tom and I try and ride that as often as possible because I get paid every time I say Danbury Country Store. Yeah.
Where do you park to do that ride?
We park down at the depot.
The
Yeah.
Potter Place, yeah.
Yeah, in Potter Place. I live on 4A, just about in the heart of Wilmot Center. So sometimes we've ridden from there and down. But yeah, we generally park right at the depot because it's easy.
It's part of the ride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as I said, we ride, as Tom said, we are built for comfort. And also because we've been along this, you see cool stuff. So we might ride for 5 seconds and get off and look at something. And they're gorgeous pictures, so make sure you got a camera with you. Yes, you can use your phone. Any other questions about historic documentation? Oh, a lot of people think that what I'm shooting this for is they're rebuilding these things, so they need a permit. I think in all the years I've been doing this, only 2 places, and I have photographs of them. You know the Memorial Bridge and the Sarah Mildred Long Bridge in Portsmouth. I shot those for about 3 to 4 years before they redid it. Those are all cataloged up there. Those are the only ones I've ever done that are actually still in existence. Everything I shoot, I'm afraid, is being taken down. And a lot of the places we go in there and we look at them and go, there's not even a picture here. They've been so beaten up so badly, there was nothing historically to shoot. Like in this room, these are probably original beams. I would have to get a shot of where they meet in the cornice and all the different joins. And this would be a cool place to shoot. There's a lot of the original stuff is still here. There's a good chance that some of the windows are still original. So that's what I have to photograph, which can be really difficult. And a lot of the places like the Nashua Mills were really scary because a lot of dead things are in there. And you have to go down deep in the bowels of it, and it's full of machine oil from 150 years. Yeah, most places are pretty nice though. Yes?
Charlie, isn't it true that because of your work that you and Lisa did on the rail trail, cataloging all the archival structures, that they are now on the historic register
Yeah.
and cannot be replaced?
Yeah, that's true. A lot of the stuff that we photographed is now historically important. It is on the registry, so they can't really take it away. And I would also tell you, if you're going to ride it and you start seeing some of these, get excited because they're cool. But then you got to realize that we were actually looking for a lot of these, especially the section markers that should have been there. And we just couldn't find them, but they're still there because they're not going to rot. But the problem is, again, you're looking over a hillside and you're going, no, I'm not going down there. And they're buried under stuff, but there's a lot of cool stuff to still find along there. And the original stuff actually has fared better than the stuff from the 1940s up. It's still there. Anything else? No? Okay, go home.